And Chicago and Atlanta, sinking at the sight of your shadow on the sidewalk of the shadow, or back in upstate. Was it crazy or back to Alaska, sinking on a boat. To Alaska, sinking on a boat. Tearing through. Got some old files, gotta find 'em, gotta get 'em out, gotta find 'em, gotta get 'em out, gotta get 'em sinking in again. It's forever now. Glad you held her, glad you held her now, glad you held her, glad you held closer to you, closer to
Hold on. Check. All right. There we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are going to start moving toward our chairs and getting ready so that we can meet our CLE requirements this evening. Isn't that a great way to start a conversation in an event? CLEs. But that's part of what you get today. You're here because in the face of so much adversity, we are here to be inclusive, to celebrate our community, to celebrate National Coming Out Day this week, and to celebrate our upcoming law students who will soon join the ranks of us attorneys to continue the good work that we do as promoting inclusion, promoting equality, and making life better for our legal community, for our social community, and everyone else. A couple of thanks before we get started and to run out the clock before 7 o'clock. I'd like to start with my board. We have, of course, Sloan Gabi, who will be your moderator today. We have Ramona Soner-Meyer and Nick Parson. We have our newest board member, Brianna Tissera. We have we have Emily McCool. And then here in spirit, did I say it right? Yes, Emily. Got it. Here in spirit or online, we have Crystal Robinson and MS Canoodle. All right, so we're going to get started with some introductions. I'm going to have our very own student law representative on the board, Sloan Gabi, step up and tell us a little bit about what we're going to be hearing about today. Oh, one more housekeeping. We do have some wonderful performers coming today. we have Naomi Dix and SS Birdie performing after the CLE hour and panel. And you will see Ramona walking around these red chairs with a big old bag of money. She's going to be trading out that money for tips so that you can tip our wonderful drag performers this evening. So if you need that money, raise your hand. She'll come around. We'll take Venmo, large bills, anything like that, to make sure we're ready to really support our drag performers this evening. Because drag is not a crime. It is an art form, and we're here to enjoy it tonight. Thank you, Sloan.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Sloan Godby. I am a 3L at North Carolina Central University School of Law. Go Eagles. I am also the Outlaw President at Central, and I have two of my amazing board members here somewhere. They're back in the back. We have Aaliyah and Sean. They also helped make this event possible, so thank you all so much. We have 6 amazing panelists lined up for you all. We are excited to share them with you and have a good discussion in these dark times. We have some good questions that'll kind of maybe help us see a little bit of light and have some positivity. Am I killing all of the next 6 minutes? Talk slower. I am a really fast talker. I guess I should tell you about myself. Like I said, I am a 3L. I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina. My dad Yes, to the actual stage, please. Come and take your spots. You each have a water. In the light. Fantastic. Someone's got to do it. No, they wanted for you to sit next to me. That's what it was. I think it does have to be that bright. Part of it, we do have some people streaming that could not be here tonight, so they are watching, also getting their CLE credit. And then we have an amazing photographer tonight, and we're being shot on film, so we have to have a little bit more light to accommodate for that. So I'm going to pass the mic around and let you all introduce yourselves. I would love to hear who you are, what law school you attended, and what area of law you practice in. And then I'm going to have you share that one. There's a mic behind you two, and then...
Sounds good. Okay, well, hi everybody. My name is Drew Culler. I went to Wake Forest Law, class of 2017. I work just down the street at Johnson & Groninger. I practice personal injury and workers' comp on the plaintiff's side. So I represent a lot of injured workers and people hurt by the negligence of others.
Hi everyone, my name is Devin Hayes. I went to Marquette University Law School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I work for a firm called Michael Best and Friedrich. We have several offices here in North Carolina: Charlotte, Raleigh, Durham, Winston-Salem, and there's one that I'm forgetting. And then I do labor and employment law, primarily the employment side, for employer defense.
I'm Satana D. Berry. I'm the elected district attorney here in Durham County. I'm a graduate of Duke University School of Law.
Hi everyone, I'm Erica Rogers. I went to Franklin Pierce School of Law, which is part of University of New Hampshire, and I am an intellectual property attorney with Ward & Smith in the Raleigh office.
Angela Haas with Haas & Associates in Raleigh, North Carolina. I went to Campbell University back when it was in Bowie's Creek. And we practice family law, family formation, divorce stuff, estate planning, estate administration.
Hey folks, my name is Becca Fisher Gabbard. I am an assistant professor of public law and government at UNC's School of Government. I come from a background in education law, and I live in Raleigh with my wife and our rescue pup.
Thank you all so much, and thank you again for being here. So our first question is going to be, what is one part of your coming out story that continues to have an impact on your career? And if anything, what would you do differently?
That's a very interesting question. You know, I sometimes, I was just talking to some people who were mostly not queer at a convention the other week and was explaining to them that coming out is not a singular event, right, in someone's lives. We come out every day, and sometimes we have to negotiate what feels safe and what doesn't feel safe. And so I think that is always part of my practice, for better or for worse. I think I think most people would think that I'm gay because I have my gay voice, but I think generally, you know, if I step into a courtroom, like there is always a question, right? Am I coming out? Am I doing the right thing? I think there's a confidence I wish I had learned earlier, that most places that I've been in North Carolina, whether that's the courtroom or whether that's with clients, are safer than you expect them to be. And I wish maybe I would have been more confident about that earlier. Hi, Becky. I see you. It's really hard to see.
All right, I guess we can just go in order. That's fine. Well, I guess for me, it's kind of a hard question to answer. I think kind of going way back, I did not have a good coming out. I was basically disowned by both my parents after high school, and so I had to find a way to put myself through college and through law school on my own, which was a little difficult given like FAFSA requirements and things like that, and to get student aid. So I had a very, very tough time for a while, and there were, you know, semesters in school where I was like one of the weird, quote unquote, weird kids who had to ask for permission to stay in the dorms over breaks because I didn't have anywhere to go. Like I didn't have a home to go to during winter break or spring break. So I was on campus in the dorms with the international students. And I think kind of having that experience really gave me like the drive to, it kind of instilled ambition in me to make sure that I am successful, to make sure I'm never in that situation again. And it kind of pushes me forward in my career to be the best that I can possibly be, because I want to prove to myself mainly that I don't need the support of others and I can support myself.
I'd say the personal part of it is that, and I'm sorry, what was your name again? Drew. Yes. That Drew said was the constant coming out. I think especially as I get older, people make certain assumptions about who you are, and so you have to kind of keep that in front of you and keep it really in front of people, and that has been interesting. That has been the most interesting part. I guess if I were to do anything, I don't know that I would do it differently. I think maybe I would have just come out sooner. It started to, luckily I didn't have parents who put me out, but it had started to come between me and my parents in that I had a secret. And, well, I thought I had a secret. They had already discussed it. And they had come up, you know, they had already decided what they were going to do. And they were waiting on me. And so I probably would have done it earlier.
I like how we're just going in a line. I hope we're not going to do this the whole time. It just feel.
I'll make you jump around next time.
All right, well, we're going to have to hop around. So I came out personally way earlier than I did professionally, and I think in hearing this question, my answer, like I'm thinking about how I delayed coming out because I was actually told to, because there was this advice that might have not been the best advice, or might have been advice that was protecting me, that is important at the firm for them to know who you are as an attorney before they make assumptions about you. And so even when I started dating my now wife, it was don't introduce her, don't bring her to firm events until you're engaged, like make sure that it's worth the risk. And so I found some attorneys at the firm that I was able to come out to, and eventually it got to the point where some people knew who I was and some people didn't. And I had an attorney that I'm very close with and said, listen, you're gonna get to the point where people are gonna start to wonder, why are you so secretive? Why are you so closed off? Do you not care? Everyone's talking about their family and their weekends, and you come to work and you're just completely closed off. And that will be a worse impression for you than coming out. And so if I could do it differently, I think I'd have more trust in the people that I choose to work with and come out earlier. And if it was a firm and if it were people that would have been an issue. And I know it's easier said than done, clearly, because I didn't come out earlier, but it wouldn't have been a firm that I want to work for if I knew earlier that people were going to treat me differently. So had I done it differently, I think I would have just trusted that it would be okay and I would know what people thought sooner. And now I'm out at work and it's good.
So I had a similar experience, I think. By the time I came out to my parents, it was after college. And I was really upset. My mom was upstairs, and I said, I want to talk to you and Dad about something. And she goes downstairs, and I could hear her, and she goes, Conrad, I think it's time. So they're like, we knew when you were like 2, so whatever. Anyway, so I don't know that. I mean, I guess I am out. I mean, it's on our website. We're LGBT, and I think I don't even know if I have my wife listed on the website now that I'm thinking about it. But it's not really something that I just say right off, I'm Angela Haas and I'm gay. I just have people get to know me for who I am, and if it comes up organically in conversation, I don't shy away from it, but I also don't make it the forefront of the conversation. So, yeah, I mean, I think I just treat it as, people that are heterosexual, they don't say, hey, I'm John and I'm heterosexual. That it shouldn't have to be like that. Like, we're people first. But if like I have a client and they're like, it's female, and she says, well, my girlfriend. I go, don't worry about it. My wife's not going to mind either. It just comes up in a way that makes people feel comfortable, and I think which makes me feel comfortable too. And but at the same time, if someone is not talking about that and they're talking about their spouse, then I'm going to talk about my wife, and I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. But it wasn't always like that.
This is the last time we will continue in this order, and then we can get really exciting. Yeah. Oh, yeah, let's just reverse it, and then we'll go one by one. So I think for me, and I would imagine for a lot of folks, my coming out was really an expression of kind of like radical self-love in a way, and of choosing myself over, others' expectations. There were a lot of forces in my young adulthood, my family, broader society, that were sort of keeping me in the closet. And I think if I think about like how coming out and how choosing myself has shown up in the professional setting or in my life since then, I think I have the courage and the strength to choose myself in other situations. So I was talking with Amelie earlier about being in private practice, right? I was at a firm in Raleigh for a couple of years, and that was not good on my mental health. I did not do well in that setting. I couldn't turn it off. Nothing about the firm, nothing about the practice. I loved it, but I was noticing in myself sort of these old patterns of hiding and of shutting down, and I don't think I would have had the courage to step away from that as soon as I did, had I not made this other, radical act of self-love earlier in my life. So I see that coming up again and again for me, and I imagine it will pay dividends across my career.
Absolutely.
So I was just thinking, like, I was very lucky to have a very supportive, I'm so sorry to hear that about you, Erica, that they were not supportive at first. I was very lucky to have a supportive work environment, and I think I quickly realized from people around me that if you are hiding something about yourself, it's going to show, and you're not going to be as good of a lawyer, and people aren't going to trust you. I mean, I work with people all day, every day, and I don't feel like I'm doing a very good job if I'm not being myself. I think there's a lot to learn about finding your style and what feels right to you, whether that's in the courtroom or talking to people or however you operate day to day. And part of my style is I'm sure tied to my queerness and my gayness, and that just makes me feel truer to myself, because I feel like I do a better job as a lawyer, really.
You You kind of touched on the next question that I had, so you don't have to answer it unless you want to again, and you don't all have to answer it because I think you kind of touched on it. But the question was going to be, how has identifying as a member of the LGBTQIA plus community shaped your career in different ways?
Can I say one thing as I'm not answering the question? I'm Kim, the sound person. Can y'all, when you talk into the mic, can you hold it really close to your mouth for everyone who's streaming? And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The pop star mic grab, I've been told.
Like
is-
this?
Yeah, you're like really in it. Oh, am I? Wow. Okay. No experience. No. Singing side gig for me. I will take this question because I jumped in with this snarky remark. I think for me, perhaps it was subconscious at first coming out of law school, but I have really prioritized and tried to identify places where I feel comfortable and I feel accepted and I feel seen. That is hard to do in like a 20-minute interview. But the more conversations you can have with folks, I have, looking back on the various places I've been thus far in my career, every single space I have felt loved and accepted, and like I can be myself in every interaction. That doesn't mean it's gonna be met with, rainbows and butterflies in every instance, but I know I have a network of support in that.
If no one else has any thoughts on this question, that's totally fine.
You can repeat it. I have an answer, but if you want to repeat it.
The question was, how has identifying as a member of the LGBTQIA plus community shaped your career?
Yeah, so what this, I think I'm speaking directly. I'm trying to do my pop star. I don't know if you can hear me okay. But great, I got a thumbs up. So as far as it coming up in my career, for me, it has taught me to not make other people feel the way that I have felt. And so a lot of it is with assumptions especially if I'm meeting a client for the first time, or if it's what we call a cold call, someone who's new to the firm. I try my very best not, if they say one thing, to assume a bunch of things about them, which is almost contradictory to sort of the law school training of it when you're issue spotting, to try to jump ahead and think about all the next things that can come. So as far as it coming up in that sense, for me, it's really just trying to not be stuck in this role of assuming anything, and really doing a good job of listening and letting somebody identify themselves and tell you what they need, and not trying to predict or guess it.
So I'll just add, as like a firm attorney, business development is very, very important for the work that I do. And so, identifying hasn't really shaped my career as much as it's shaped my business development activities. Because for a very long time, I was afraid that clients would not like me. I had some very unfortunate incidents at a prior firm where clients would copy me on emails by mistake because there was someone who had a very similar name, and I would get some like very offensive memes and very offensive jokes via email that weren't really meant for me. And I kind of had a fear that, I can't be successful because clients won't like me. They won't want a gay attorney. And then I decided, well, that's silly, because a lot of what client development are people who just like you, and then your expertise kind of comes second. And so I tried to find ways to kind of network in the spaces that I felt most comfortable in. And I tried to like marry other interests with my legal interests, and it makes it easy to kind of talk about what I'm kind of into. So like, for example, I'm a car gay. I like cars. I do like road rallies or whatnot. And so every year there's Pride at the Dragon, at the Tail of the Dragon in the Smoky Mountains. I go to that. You get to meet people, and then you get to kind of talk about yourself and get to meet people, and then your career sort of naturally flows into that. And so I use it as a way to really kind of network within the spaces that I'm comfortable in. And I think that shapes kind of my client development activities for, law firm life.
So I don't know if I can answer this question directly, but I will say that much more of my career has been influenced by me being a Black woman than it has been my sexual orientation. I think you have to know something about me to get to know that, whereas a Black woman always walks into the room, right? And so there have been many situations in which I have been, when I first started practicing criminal law, I was the only black woman lawyer in that whole judicial district. And so it makes you kind of famous, and not in the way that's a pop star. And so I think those things are inextricably linked for me. And I would agree with you that part of your success is that people just kind of like you. And so, you just find the people who like you, and the people who don't like you, I mean, they don't talk to you anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Get my pop star on. So I think how it shaped my career is at the time when I first started, 2002, we didn't have gay marriage, and we didn't have statutes that really addressed our partnerships at the time. And so a large part of my focus was trying to protect people in the community as far as family relationships went through domestic partnerships and things of that nature. But we had to really get creative in tying statutes together or just making up contracts that would be enforceable because we didn't have the law. And so I think it's had me be a lot more creative than I would have otherwise been. And also just hearing people in the community talk about, well, this happened to me and that happened to me, and I'm like, that's not right. And just trying to figure out a way to just help protect people. And then it became, really my focus, which is interesting because one of my associates who's been with me almost 5 years now, he had this drag show thing that was coming up, and he's like, hey, do you think we could sponsor this? And I'm like, sure. And he goes, do you want that to be sort of our firm, like, to be known for that? I said, are you really? So I guess I must not be promoting it too much.
I found you through a cold search on queer attorneys in the Triangle.
Good.
So you're promoting it enough.
Good.
All right, this next one's a little bit heavier, so feel free to take a second to think about it. As marginalized communities like ours continue to face both old and new challenges from political groups and cultural pressures, what is the most important thing that we as members of the legal community can do to fight back, push back, whatever word you want to use?
Do something. Don't just sit back. And it's easy to do. There are so many things that we can be involved in, and there are so many things to keep up with. I was looking at some maps today, and there's like an interactive map on it'll show you everywhere in the world that has gay marriage or that has discrimination and what's the ranking of it and all this kind of stuff. And I remember chasing the map on gay marriage when that was going on. That was a whirlwind, trying to keep up with it. But there's so many things to keep up with. Try to find one that matches with who you are and that you can be passionate about, and then do it. Do something. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I think the tendency for people in times like this is to shrink back because they're afraid for themselves. Not everybody has a law degree. I know we get used to it because we're surrounded by lawyers every day. It's a very powerful thing to have. Step forward. Step forward in your community, do something outside of what you normally do. Be visible. You never know who's watching you. Just like there's somebody watching you who would wish you harm, there are 10 kids out there saying, okay, it's safe. There's somebody I can go to. And so, yeah, just don't hide. I know that is easier for me to say, but we all have our own fears, and we all face something, some form of retribution in these times. But this is when you find out what you're really made of.
I agree 100%. I think it's really difficult right now to feel like there is anything that we can do to make anything better, right? But that's how they want us to feel, right? So practically, if you're looking for, I know me personally, I wake up in the morning, I'm trying to have my coffee. I'm not a morning person, as we talked about. And I open up the New York Times, and that's probably the worst thing that I could possibly do, right? And I think there are so many of these big issues, I can't solve them. I can't solve them as just me, right? But there are things that you can do. Do something. Find something. Is it volunteering? Is it being visible? Is it being bold? Is it speaking out on a panel? I mean, anything that you can do, I think is what you need to be doing. I want everybody to lean into that. I'm talking to myself too. You have to lean into that, or else we're just sitting around paralyzed by the fear of doing anything, and then here we are not fixing any problems, but do something.
Yeah, and I want to say community is powerful, and when I say do something, it doesn't have to be a big thing. Join the planning commission. Volunteer, run for school board, be on your HOA. Just do something. I know, right? That's a really powerful position, just so you know. But do something where you are pushing policy forward. As I would tell you, as a Gen Xer, a generation ago, that's what they were doing. You know, we saw them putting people on school boards. Believe it or not, Durham used to be a Republican city, a whole city council, county commission, and that is how people make it to places of power and influence. So start small.
I'll give the law firm answer, and that I think it's important to remember that we are the experts, we are advisors, we are counselors. And one of the roles that we play is helping our clients navigate these issues. And I'm in employment law, so it's naturally these are intersecting with my work pretty often. But I think it's an important part of, you know, not every client is looking to just follow what's going on in the world right now. They want to protect their people, protect their employees, and it is often our job to help them navigate that and figure out how to do it, whether it be immigration enforcement, whether it be rollback on ERGs and, you know, diversity programs, things like that. Those are the things that we can do because we are trusted advisors. That's why we're lawyers.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have something just to add because I think it's important at the same time that I think it's obviously we need to do something. We need to lean on our community, lean in, also take care of yourselves. Like hug a tree, put your bare feet on the earth, like do whatever you need to do to feel grounded and feel okay, because it's also important that we do things, especially right now, to take care of ourselves as we take care of each other.
So yeah, don't die. I mean,
it's good advice. So if you want to take us into this next question, it's what is something that you do to take care of yourself and remain hopeful in such an unprecedented world right now? Also, just to tack on to the last question, I do know, and I feel this as a law student, that it can feel really scary sometimes to actually do something because we are in a very precarious place where we could lose the opportunity to get our license. But there were examples given today of things that you can do that will not risk that place. So just remember, even though we may not be able to do everything we want to do, because I promise there's a lot of shit I want to do that I want to do that I can't do, but you can do something. So just remember that.
And come talk to one of us. Go talk to somebody you trust and say, what can I do? That doesn't put me in fear of losing my license or the character and fitness or any of the other things that you're worried about, because there are a million things you can do. So what do I do? Take care of myself. If you ask me after we get off stage, I will show you a picture of my very, very beautiful grandson. And
he's beautiful.
He is gorgeous. He's the most adorable guy ever. And so he's my new broke best friend. And so I hang out with him a lot. I've also been teaching myself the banjo. And so I'm getting pretty good at that, if I have to say so myself. And I'm an empty nester. Unfortunately, my youngest child has made the poor decision to go to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
Go Heels.
And so I know, I'm not having kids at home anymore. And so I'm using that opportunity to reconnect with friends and family and folks that, after 25 years of raising kids, you lose track of. So I am myself reconnecting to community.
I think one of the things that I'm realizing as things feel really heavy is that cultivating joy is hard work, right? And but it's worthwhile work. And so for me, I try to follow up on the like put your feet on the earth example. I try to get outside every single day. We were talking earlier about going on a walk in the morning with our partners. I like to bake bread. I like to have my hands in things. I like to bake bread. I like to garden. I love live
There's a joke
music.
in there somewhere.
What? Oh, yeah. I love that. There certainly is.
Sorry.
But yeah, it's important to, and I think this goes to maybe the earlier question too, when it feels too hard to sort of like get involved in a tangible way, I think experiencing joy and showing people that you have joy and you can feel joy in your person is an act of resistance in some ways. So when it feels too hard, find places to find joy.
Yeah, I think you need to be very intentional about what you do to find joy or relief from everything. I walk 2 miles in the morning every morning with my partner. I have a lot of morning dread and anxiety about all the things I have to do, and that is a helpful way. Sometimes if I get home at a reasonable hour, we do it in the evening too. But I think you have to find your thing, and you have to find your people, and you have to be a little bit selective and intentional about where you put your energy. You know, sometimes with everything that's going on, plus being a lawyer or a law student, it turns out to be 10 o'clock at night and I've not done one thing for me, you know? And those are the moments I'm like, well, surely I have 20 minutes that I can do yoga, right? That's a time when I spend, that I have where it takes me 20 minutes and I'm not thinking about work, or I'm not thinking about what the headline is. You know, find that whatever it is. And Erica's 100% right that you need to find those things, because if you aren't finding those things, you're going to burn out, you're going to feel hopeless. That's where the trouble really is, I think. So you be very intentional. You do have time. I have to tell myself, you do have the time to do this. It's just 20 minutes, right? Find your thing, for sure.
I spend hours and hours in my workshop doing woodworking, and I call my best friend a lot, and y'all know Dumb and Dumber? Well, that's us. We're like just stupid, and we talk about the dumbest things that we do, and then we laugh at ourselves. And that's a big relief, because I know I'm not the only dumb one out there. But just laugh at yourself, and don't isolate. That's the worst thing that you can do, is to feel like you're alone, and you'll just sink lower and lower and lower and lower. So find a way to laugh and do things that give you energy.
And I'll add, it's also important, kind of taking off that, is to talk. It's important to talk, whether that's with friends, with family, with a therapist. Shout out therapy. It's really, really helpful. Talking can bring you joy. I'm in a book club. We spend maybe 20 minutes talking about the book and then 2.5 hours talking about each other. And it is absolutely wonderful. And it's a gay men's book club specifically, and it's very reaffirming, and it's something I look forward to every single month, and it brings me a lot of joy.
Thank you all. And just to remind the law students, I know it's midterms right now, so it seems like this is impossible, but you can do the 20 minutes of yoga or a walk in the morning or a book club.
Hug a tree, 2 seconds.
Yes, just go hug a tree.
6 seconds, that's
there
it.
aren't many near our law school, but there are
Before I
trees
cut it down.
outside. And then this is our last question, so we're going to have plenty of time for questions from the audience, so please think of them so we can hit our CLE requirements. What is one piece of advice that you would give to queer identifying law students that are about to enter the world, but particularly the world that it is today?
So I've got a question, because you said something about we're scared that we won't get our licenses.
Yeah.
What is that about?
I think it's just the place of there have been students that have been removed from the country or have been kicked out of schools And then there are also things like, full disclosure, I got a charge when I was protesting in 2020. And so that's something that I had to admit to the law school when I got in, and I will likely have to sit for character and fitness because of that. And it's something that if I got that today, I don't know that I would be admitted to law school, hopefully at least with the school that I go to. But there are choices being made by students that are making it to where they're no longer a student.
Wow. That's
It's
sad and
heartbreaking to see.
unfortunate. It really is. It really is. I don't know. What was your question?
My question was, what is one piece of advice that you would give to queer identifying law students that are entering the world, but not only the world more generally, but the world right now and what's happening?
I think it's very similar to what I said before, is that you are most powerful when you are your true self, whatever that means to you. You're the best lawyer, you're the best person, you're the best partner, you're the best whatever when you are feeling like you are yourself. So lean into that. Everything in the world is telling us, don't do that. Do it. Okay, that's my advice to you.
Respect. Respect other people and respect yourself. And sometimes that can be really hard when you see what people are doing. And just try to step back and think, you know, we don't know where people are coming from all the time. We don't know that person giving us the finger riding down the road didn't just lose someone. You know, we don't know. So just, I would say, be respectful as much as you can to other people and respect yourself in the process.
I think find a mentor. I had a queer identifying mentor that has now passed, but I still hear some of the things and some of the advice that she gave to me now. And if anybody has a hard time finding a mentor, come find me after the panel.
On that note, any PNBA board member is more than willing to mentor the law students or young attorneys that are here.
Yeah, what they said. I would just pick up on a thread from earlier. Find your people, find your community. And I want to say to the current law students, this isn't necessarily advice, but hopefully some words of encouragement. We need y'all. We need your spirit. We need your voices. We need good, kind, honest people in the fight and doing the work. So come join.
I'm the parent of young adults, so I'm especially in the advice-giving mode right now. So I would tell you what I tell all law students. One, these folks are not just your classmates, they are your colleagues. They will come around and around and around and around. So get to know them, network with them, know what they do, help each other out. Look around here. This is the next 50 years of law practice. This is where you'll get clients from. This is where you get opportunities from. Take advantage of that. The other thing that I would say, especially for queer people, especially for people of color, and I'm dead serious about this, please limit your use of substances. This is a huge issue in the legal profession. I had a law professor tell me that the law is a jealous mistress. Now, that's got all kinds of problems with that characterization. But he was right. It will consume everything in your life. And you keep a lot of people's secrets. And there's a lot of secondary trauma to doing this work. And a lot of people, especially queer people, especially people of color, do dissipate that by drinking, taking a little bit of this, taking a little bit of that. Just please be mindful of that. It not only will wreck your career, it leads to depression, wrecks your life. And so take care of yourself.
I think I would just say, keep in mind that your first job is not your career. So there's a lot of things that we can do with our law degrees. There's a lot of twists and turns our careers can take. And the world may seem daunting right now, and then adding a career search and your first job search on top of that, probably not ideal. But just know that your first job does not define your entire career, and you can choose the path that you want going forward. And it gets a lot easier to do that once you have a few years of experience under your belt.
So that kind of leads perfectly into one question that we've had come in. How do you choose a practice area in the really tough market that we're entering into?
I think it chooses you. I mean, it really isn't about your first job. It really is just like, it'll find you. You'll find it. I promise. I promise.
Yeah, if I can share anecdotally, I wanted to put off a real law job for as long as possible. So I went and clerked for 2.5 years, which was amazing because I got exposure to all different areas of the law, figured out what I was interested in, what I wasn't interested in. And from there, I knew I always had a passion for young people and public schools. So I thought, let me see what being an education attorney representing school boards, what that's like. I mentioned private practice was not a good fit for me. I never in a million years thought I would be a professor. I never thought I would be working in local government law, but I love it. And my work is incredibly rewarding. So to the earlier point, I think your career will take turns. You will wind up where you're supposed to be. Don't sweat it quite yet.
And I would say you don't know what you don't know. And so the more people you talk to and find out what they're practicing, the more areas of law you discover. And sometimes it's just as important to know what you don't like as what you do like. So I think just learning, just listening, just finding, and I agree that it somehow finds you, but don't sweat it.
I would say find something you're really passionate about and somewhere where you want to make a difference. And then it's, what do I need to learn in the law to be able to make a difference there? And that's how it finds you.
Yeah, I think, from my experience, I did not go to law school to be a workers' comp practitioner. That wasn't even on my radar. I had no idea. I thought I was going to be prosecuting violent crimes. That's what I thought I was going to do.
I mean, you still can.
I guess I could.
I was told, do not do family law, whatever you do. Don't do family law. So I didn't take the family law planning course. That's all I've ever done.
Wow. I went to law school thinking I was going to do something else. I was very passionate about that. All my internships were at DA's offices, and this job fell into my lap as working for the injured worker, and I think it fit into my value system. And that's not something you absolutely need to know what your value system is. That's always a work in progress forever. But I think you need to think about, what was the reasoning of why I wanted to go to law school? Did I want to help a specific person? Did I want to help people generally? Well, that'll eliminate a bunch of areas of law for you. And I think really. I don't, nothing.
Innovation helps people.
That's 100% true. I'm not shading you, Erica. I'm just saying, find what's right for you. I think trying things out is helpful. I got very lucky, again, where I've only worked one job, and that's not the norm and maybe shouldn't be the norm. But if I go home at night knowing that I've helped certain people through their case when they're at home in excruciating pain all day, that feels good to me, and I know I've done a good job. And with the trials and tribulations of being a trial lawyer, and just the amount of work that we have to do and the pressure there is, if you can go home at night thinking, well, I did this thing and that really fits into my values of what I want to accomplish in this world, that's like golden. That's golden.
I feel like this is a little bit of what I just said, but it's also important to remember that your first job is mostly skills building. And you can find jobs that will give you the skills to get you into the job that you really want. So if you want to be a commercial litigator, but you have to do some other sort of litigation, there's transferable skills. And you can move 1 year, 2 years down the line into what you want to do. So as far as looking for actual job searches, just look for those skills matches that really line up with what you want to do long term, and those positions can help launch you into the area that you want to be in.
Thank you all. We had one come in from one of our Polymurray board members. What has been your experience with representing clients that may not represent your values, and how do you manage that? Bearing in mind that we can't all choose our clients, especially in the beginning of our careers. Took y'all a second.
I'm putting on my School of Government hat here. This is what I do every day. One of our core values at the School of Government is to be nonpartisan. Another is to be neutral in the information and guidance we're giving. So I could have someone calling me on one side of an issue. I could have someone on the other side of an issue calling me, and I better give both of those folks my same interpretation of what the law says and how it applies to the facts that as they have presented them. Sometimes folks leave out facts. I can't do much about that. But I think this goes to an earlier question where we can be honest about what the law says and clear in delivering information, whether it's in our social circles, whether it's professionally. That goes a long way, I think, especially today. So there are many instances where I don't necessarily agree with what the law says. I don't necessarily agree with an outcome. I had practice in that clerking for Judge Inman at the Court of Appeals, but that's what we do as attorneys, right, is interpret the law, apply the law. So I have practice in that every day and would be happy to talk to y'all about how I sort of balance personal and professional in that way.
I just try to be honest with people. If someone's coming from a place that I don't appreciate, I try to see it how they see it so that I can communicate and reach them in a way that they can understand. And if they don't, they don't. But I'm gonna at least try. And sometimes, this week even, my client's like, well, she did this and I said this, and I said, you're an asshole. Because that's the way they were behaving, and it sort of shocked him, and he was like, yeah, I guess that kind of was kind of shitty for me to do. But he appreciated it. I just try to be honest with people, whether they like what I say or they don't like what I say. I try to give them a different way to look at things. Not that it's the right way, but here's another, have you ever thought about this? And then they can make up their own mind about how to see things. And sometimes I change their minds and sometimes I don't, but at least I've put the plate out for them to see if they'll, eat off of it.
I'd say it's a good question, because sometimes you have to, as an attorney, you have to advocate for someone that you might not agree with, and that's the job. And I think for me, if I understood the question correctly of how I deal with it, is that I might not agree with every client I help, but I have to help all of them, and it allows me to help the ones that I really agree with if I work in the system, and the system is what it is. And so, sometimes, at least for me, the clients I want to help the most usually have the least money to spend, for example. But in order to help them, I have to help all the clients that come in the door, and that's just the reality. So that's how I deal with it, is I know that by helping some, it allows me the time and the resources to then help those that I might rather, or might be, agree with, I guess I should put it that way.
So I can talk about 3 specific examples that have been varying levels of difficult for me. Because sometimes it's just as with the work that I do, serving business clients, you have to defend people that do bad things sometimes, or do things that you just don't agree with. I had one incident where a client was absolutely gushing over my work product on speakerphone with a partner in the office. And then over time, it became clear that he was surprised at how well my work product was, largely because I'm multiracial and he didn't expect anything of me, presumably because I'm part Black. And the mortified look on that partner's face when she realized how the direction that conversation was going in, I mean, I felt bad for her, even though I was the one being insulted. But it's something I just had to let go. You can't take it personally. I had another incident where I had a client who was saying disparaging things about a trans employee, and I had to have a full discussion with that client because they did not understand the difference between a drag queen and someone who was trans. And that client actually genuinely listened to me and walked away from that conversation having a better understanding of what was going on. And so that, to me, it was difficult to deal with that from a how do I navigate the situation standpoint, but the end result ended up being, very, very affirming. Because I felt like I actually taught the client something that day and she actually listened to me. And then I've had other scenarios where I've represented religious-based clients, and I've had to argue the ministerial exception to Title VII, saying that no, we can discriminate against this person based on sexual orientation because it fits with their religion. And that's a really, really tough one for me to do, because in those cases, a lot of discrimination cases in employment law, there's two sides to the story. There's someone not performing. I've had several cases where the only thing that person did wrong was being gay or being trans. And those are very, very hard cases to defend, but ultimately it's my job, and that's what the law is, and I have to counsel my clients on what the law is.
So currently I don't have any clients. Well, my clients are you, the people of Durham County. But I would say the most important thing that you have as an attorney is your reputation. That is the coin of the realm. And to that point, when you give good advice and you maintain your reputation, that matters. And that's why people listen when you say things like, you need to know the difference between a drag queen and a trans person. Because they also know that you know the difference between, I don't know, UCC 5 or 7. I don't know what UCC is. But you get my point, right? And I think that's the most important thing, is that you be a good lawyer, you give good advice, and that's the reputation that you have. And that helps, I think.
From another one of our board members, you all emphasize the importance of doing something and not taking your law degree for granted. It would be helpful to hear what you all specifically do to ensure access to legal representation of LGBTQ+ clients in your area of practice or through other pro bono work.
My job is pro bono. So what we have done in our office is I try to make sure that the attorneys and legal assistants, everybody that works in our office, is, one, respectful of people, and that when we are talking about victims or we are talking about defendants, we do it in the way in which they talk about themselves. Very early on in my tenure as a district attorney, we had a case in which a black trans woman was murdered, and her family insisted on using her dead name. And we wouldn't do that. I mean, she had not legally changed her name, so for purposes of identification to the court, we did have to use her birth certificate. But in other ways, the ADAs in my office always referred to her in the way in which she referred to herself and in which her community referred to herself. And I try to make sure that those things are common and not uncommon, right? That is not, you don't get a gold star for doing that, because that's what you're supposed to do. And so that's how we have a special victims unit, and that works with folks who have been victims of domestic violence or intimate partner violence or sexual assault. We also, those people also represent people whose intimate partner is of the same sex, or whose sexual orientation or gender presentation cause them to be harmed, and we talk about it in court. So.
So one of the things that I do is I try to find organizations or groups or whatnot that I can present to, because even though I do defense side work for employers, the law is the law, and so I can do trainings. I can generically talk about what the EEOC does and things like that without creating business conflicts. So I've done presentations to organizations or groups that serve underserved populations or things like that, in order to get back to the community effectively and kind of train people to know your rights, recognize your rights, and if you think your rights are being violated, here's where you go to get help.
That was actually a surprisingly difficult question. Because to be honest with you, it doesn't really come up all that much in my day-to-day work. People who call my office are people who are hurt at work, or maybe they've been in a car wreck or have been hurt on a premise or something like that, and they want somebody to help them. They want somebody who's capable. They want somebody who's likable. And it doesn't really come up all that often in my day-to-day work, but I have found that because we are a very affirming office that employs gay people and queer people and people of color, that oftentimes we have a clientele that I really enjoy serving. But outside of your work, you may not get a job in a place that directly speaks to an LGBT plus service or area of practice. So you need to find that elsewhere if you really want. Like currently, I'm serving as the vice president and chair of DEI for the North Carolina Advocates for Justice. I find a lot of I get a lot of joy doing that, where I'm helping serve NCAJ and spearheading their diversity initiatives. But we also do some outward stuff in the community. So find it wherever you need to find it. It may not be in your day-to-day work, and oftentimes it probably isn't. So find your community and find where it is that you can serve us. Yeah.
All right, we have a handful more minutes. Does anyone in the crowd have a question for me? Law students? Is that a hand? What?
Not whoever wants to speak on this can speak on this, but
Hold it up to your
okay,
mouth.
Closer, better. Okay, so as you were talking about, Santana, there's the intersectionality of being a person of color as well as being a queer person, and how the difficulties of you can always see your race, but you can't necessarily see your sexual orientation. So just how has it been to navigate being in both of those spaces? So that's my question.
How's it been to navigate in both of those spaces? Intersectionality is tough. I'm not going to tell you it's been easy. I was the Pride speaker for the Manhattan DA's office this year, and somebody asked me, had anybody ever treated me poorly because of my sexual orientation? Because obviously people treat me poorly because I'm a black woman. And I was like, I don't think so. I think maybe I've, just been, like I had this woman who would sprinkle salt around my desk at this one place I worked, because my name is Satana, and she thought it was like Satan, and so she would sprinkle this religious salt around my desk every day. And but then as I thought about it, I have, since I've been district attorney, and this is Durham, right? So I have had, people who have changed their mind about who they thought I was once they found out that I was queer. And I had, in my first the first time I ran for this office, there were, pastors in the pulpit preaching against me. And I am super boring. Sloan can tell you.
She is not boring.
There is I'm I just basically go home and I hang out with my friends. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do much anything. And so for people to call me like a menace or, you know, a threat to the community has been tough. And I'm a unicorn, which is kind of fun, being a unicorn, right? And so that's the way I think about it. I think about it as I was a weirdo kid. I get to be a weirdo adult, which makes me more fun. It also makes it easier for me to be a change maker. Because what I am really about at my core value is freedom for my people and whoever those people are. And so every job I've had, every move I've made has been towards advancing the freedom of my people. And so, you know, sprinkle all the salt you want.
Satana is not a boring person. Meet her after the panel. She has lots of fun stories and things. I have one more lingering question that I'm going to ask, but before I ask that as a wrap up, do we have any more questions from the crowd? Yes.
Rapid fire question. One piece of advice for law students and attorneys early in their career.
Go for it.
Something that you wish you knew.
This merges with the question that I was going to ask, which is what advice would you give your younger self as you were entering your career? So take it from either spin and go for it.
A lot of things aren't that serious.
I would say prioritize yourself and your authenticity.
You're going to mess up. Own it. Earlier the better.
Wear whatever you want.
She wears some sick shoes.
If you're in a law firm, keep your head up and your door open and meet people. Well, then I guess we can also flip to what do we tell our younger selves then? Yeah. I mean, I think if I was talking to my younger self as in like my younger like pre-attorney self or like a child version of me.
Baby you.
Okay. Yes. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, for me, it's like, hey, if I'm talking like a child, it's like, hey, things are gonna get really, really tough, but then they're gonna get really, really better later on. So like, tough it out, you'll be fine. You'll learn a lot of things, and it's gonna be great.
That probably applies to your early legal career too.
Also, that's fair, yes.
I'd still tell my younger self to wear whatever I wanted.
Yeah, I said this earlier, but it's important enough for me to say again. I think find a mentor. Like, find somebody that's going to advocate for you.
I think I would just tell myself to be bolder. Be bolder earlier, you know? Be as bold as you want.
I believe that is all we have. We're going to take a quick 10-minute break, and then we're going to have some drag queens. I think that we're probably going to get a couple of photos up here of you panelists, so don't run away yet. When you do, however, take your chair with you, because we're going to clear it out. So take a quick bathroom break, get another drink, have an empanada, do your thing. Get your money exchanged for some $1 bills, and get ready to party with the queens.
no